Welcome to the Travel Squad podcast, where adventure meets inspiration. We're your hosts. I'm Brittany.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Jamal. Together we explore international destinations, hike epic national parks, and share unforgettable travel experiences with you, one passport stamp at a time.
Our mission is to inspire you to travel by showing you how you can make it work no matter your budget, schedule, or experience level.
We bring you along so that you can laugh, get excited, and start planning your own trip.
So grab your ticket and your passport.
And don't forget your travel insurance.
And get ready to embark on a new adventure with us around the globe.
Hey, Squaddies. Travel Squad Podcast is back with Just the Tip, our Friday mini-episode series where we give you quick travel stories, hacks, and recommendations to set you off into the weekend right.
Today you have me, Brittany, and Jamal to share our day trip itinerary to Sintra, Portugal with you.
So Sintra was a continuation of our trip to Portugal. We talked about Lisbon earlier in the week, and we did a day trip to Sintra from Lisbon. So this episode is talking all about that.
And what drew us to Sintra is a fairy tale town tucked into the forested hills of the Serra de Sintra, just about 15 minutes away by train from Lisbon. So it's a really easy day trip. Sintra was once a summer retreat for Portuguese royals. It's filled with palaces, medieval castles, and estates surrounded by really lush gardens and dramatic landscapes. And Sintra is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, because it's a blend of Moorish, Gothic, and Romantic architecture.
Yeah, and believe it or not, it's also filled with scenic hiking trails and charming old town streets lined with cafes and artisan shops. So Sintra is a really special place. I know we said that it's filled with hiking trails. When we came and did our time in Sintra, believe it or not, we did not do any hiking, although you can do that while you are here. But if you happen to be in Lisbon and you have a day, we highly recommend that you come to Sintra to check out all the palaces, gardens, castles, and things that they have here because it's really close, really unique, and of course, a UNESCO Heritage World Site for a reason.
So we're going to dive into some tips that we have for you. And we have talked about Sintra as a day trip, but realistically, you can't see all of the sites in one day. So if you only have one day to go, you can probably hit 3 sites. But if you want to see more, you're going to need to spend 2, possibly 3 days to see everything that Sintra has to offer.
Yeah, and if you do go, you should also buy your bus pass online in advance because it is cheaper if you get it online. So we took the train from Lisbon here to Sintra. If you have your Lisboa card, and again, harken back to our episode on Lisbon, we talked about it, it gives you free train access to Sintra and from Sintra and back. But other than that, then your Lisboa card stops working here. So you do want to buy that 24-hour bus pass, again, cheaper online. And you want that bus pass for a particular reason. It takes you to all of the sites and palaces that are worth seeing in the area. More particularly, the pass is good for bus number 434 and bus 435, which are the ones, of course, like I said, that get you to the main sites that you want to see.
Another tip that we have for you is Peña Palace requires an entry time, and make sure to book it in advance. When we were looking at this, we were looking at probably 2 weeks in advance or so, and the morning slots were starting to really fill up and diminish in the amount of tickets that they had available. And they're very strict about the entry time, so be sure you pick a time that you can make it to.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
So we ended up going to Sintra on a Friday. So our plan was to visit at least 3 of the sites that are managed by the Parques de Sintra, which means the Parks of Sintra, translated from Portuguese to English. There are 11 in total though, right? So again, as you were saying, Brittany, people could spend a lot more time if you want. Of course, if you're just spending a day, you're really doing the highlights. And I feel like the 3 things that we did here were some of the highlights.
The Parks of Sintra is a publicly funded company that was established in 2000 once Sintra became a World Heritage Site in 1995. So they are really responsible for safeguarding and enhancing and restoring and keeping the heritage sites maintained.
So like I said, we took the train in the morning from Lisbon to Sintra. It took around 50 minutes. So we arrived around 9 a.m. because buses start running up to Pena Palace and the Moorish Castle around 9:15. So we were very lucky that when we arrived, we were able to just get on the first bus that went up, because believe me, if you're not on some of those first buses, it's going to get very, very crowded later in the day, not only at the palace, but the road to the palace and other sites, because it is a one-way road and it becomes very, very congested later in the day.
Yeah, so it took about 25-30 minutes to make our way up to Pena Palace, and it is a very windy bus ride. So you actually do have the option, like Jamal mentioned earlier, to hike. To hike, it would probably take you about an hour to get up there, but just for the sake of time, we took the bus. But the history of this palace dates back to the 12th century. It was a chapel dedicated to Our Lady of Pena here. And then King Manuel I ordered the construction of a monastery, the Royal Monastery of Our Lady of Pena. But in the earthquake that we talked about in the Lisbon episode in 1755, there was an earthquake that left the monastery in ruins.
Yeah, so even though the original site and monastery was left in ruins, what was left of it still was beautiful enough to inspire some of the royal family of Portugal that saw it later to say, hey, you know what, let's restore this, let's build a summer palace in this area. It's really beautiful. So almost a century later, here in 1836 is when they really started rebuilding this site to make it a palace for the royals.
Pena Palace is probably the most popular attraction in Sintra, and for a good reason. It's very beautiful. When you walk up to it, you're going to see these beautiful red and yellow towers, and it's an example of the 19th century Romanticism. Architecture also blends Gothic, Manueline, Moorish, and Renaissance architectural styles. So it's really colorful. It has a lot of ornate details on the outside. If you want, you can just visit the outside in the lush gardens and the winding paths. But we also recommend visiting the interior to see what it looked like inside as well.
Yeah, you definitely need to go inside, and the inside is really cool because, of course, it used to be a royal palace, so you get to see the history there too. But really the outside, as you mentioned, Brittany, is just so striking because it has all of those different architectural styles. But you also didn't mention, a lot of medieval architectural style here too. Some of the towers have that kind of medieval look. Then, of course, Portugal being very influenced by the Moors that came and Islamic culture. You do see some of that design in the tile work, the mosaics, the archways, etc. So this castle really has so many different architectural designs, and you would think that that would make it actually clash, but it makes it really unique, really beautiful, and stand out, and is just an incorporation of all of Portuguese history in one castle, really.
So like we mentioned, we took the bus up here, but the bus only drops you off at the base of the property. So then from there, you either need to take a shuttle, which you do have to pay for, or you have to walk uphill to the palace. We decided that we were going to walk uphill to the palace because we were on a time crunch to meet our 10 a.m. entry. So if you were going from Lisbon, I probably wouldn't recommend booking anything earlier than 10 a.m. because we were right on time at that point.
And so again, we did tour the inside. It was very interesting to see. You could see the courtyards, the architecture. You still have some of the beds that the king and queen slept on, the chinaware. So you really do get an amazing tour when you're in here. The one thing that I will say that was kind of a drawback, if I'm going to be completely honest, is that because this is so popular, and of course, they really restrict the flow of traffic, so to speak, of how you are able to tour the castle, it creates a lot of congestion with people around you. So you can't really bang it out, not that you would really want to, but if you think you have a little bit faster pace, want to move along, you're really hindered in doing that because you're going through narrow corridors of the castle and there's just so many people. So I would say that's the one drawback, but if you know that going in and expect it, it's not really the end of the world.
It wouldn't be too bad if it was just like one or two people in front of you, but you are going to be grouped in with tour groups. So then you're trying to pass, groups of 10, 15 people while their tour guide is trying to explain something to them. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, I would agree with Jamal. That was one drawback. But otherwise, we really did love our visit here to Peña Palace.
The next stop that we went to was the Moorish Castle. And this castle here, of course, was built in the 8th and 9th centuries. So really, really old. And it's an old medieval fortress of the Moors when they had actually conquered this part of Europe. And so this spot here, the Moorish Castle, is actually a stop before Peña Palace. Some people on our bus ended up getting off here, and then from here you can just walk a very short way uphill to get to Peña Palace. But I wouldn't recommend doing that first, even though this castle is first along the way, because by the time you're done with this, Peña Palace is going to get really busy. So just reiterating that tip, I would advise doing the palace as early as possible. So what we did when we were done with the palace is we walked downhill a little bit to get to the castle before exploring it.
The castle was really cool because this was a medieval fortress, and so you can really walk still along its ancient stone walls. You can see the battlements, the watchtowers. You get these beautiful panoramic views of Sintra. You can see the surrounding forests. You can even see the coastline, and you can also see back up to Peña Palace as well. So it is just a really beautiful castle, or what's left of it. And what I really liked about this was you're not on a tour, and so it's much more spread out, and so it feels less crowded here.
There are a lot of steps here, and what I mean by that is, of course, this is built on a hill, but really what is left of the castle and the fortress are the walls that are at the cliff's edge. So you get to hike the walls that are around the cliff, and so you're at a low point, then you climb to a high point, then there's the center of the castle and the fortress. So lots of steps. It's really cool. I enjoyed this a lot. It would be nice if they did offer tours here, or they do, but if we actually partook in one, because the history that you would get from this would be very, very interesting. Even what little that we knew and were able to read, I mean, it's just so intriguing. Again, the history of the Islamic conquering of Europe, or at least this part of it, and then again, the pushback from the Christian kings and Catholic Church who overtook it, and then the story of them having a mosque here. Then when the Christians retook it over, now they built a church in spot of the mosque, and you just see artifacts too of where people used to live, some grave sites, etc. So lots of really cool stuff happening here, but one of the coolest places that I think we experienced in Sintra, just because it is so old and what's left is really the fortification walls, which I thought was really awesome.
Yeah, it was really nice to walk the walls, and it's just one of those days where it's going to be a leg day because you're walking up to Peña Palace and you're walking down to the Moorish Castle and you're walking up the steps along the fortified walls, and then it's just a big leg day, but a good one because you're learning so much, and Sintra is just so beautiful. The castle has been undergoing archaeological excavation ever since 1976, and it has returned countless discoveries in regards to the history of the site and its inhabitants. So we're still learning things about this site.
So from here, after doing the two activities, it took a bit of time. We were getting here into the afternoon. We knew we wanted to have lunch. So there is the bus stop right outside the Moorish Castle. But like I said, as the day progresses, more and more people are coming. You have to take the bus because to get to the next spot, which would be Peña Palace, of course we already did, but further along is the old town of Sintra, where you're going to have some other palaces, cafes, etc. But you do need to take a bus to get here. It's too far to walk. So by the time we got to the bus station outside the Moorish castle, several buses had gone by because nobody is getting off of it. Everyone's going to Pina. And so since nobody's getting off and it's full, it's hard. So we actually had to take one of the little tuk-tuks to the next bus stop up, which was Pina Palace. We could have probably walked it. I was feeling lazy that day just from all the hiking and other stuff that we had been doing all along on this trip before we made it to Sintra, to want to kind of walk back uphill to catch the bus. So we just paid €5 to do that. That was a unique experience, but it will be crowded when you're trying to catch the bus there. So keep that in mind. Either walk it up, taxi, or take yourself one of the little tuk-tuks to the next bus station. That way you can get it at Pena where everybody is getting off and can get on with ease.
Or if you're having a hiking day, you can hike down from the castle to the historic center as well. There was actually like a marked path that we saw. We just weren't going to do that day just for time constraints, but that is an option if you're staying in Sintra or if you have a more leisurely day or more time.
So we made it to lunch in Old Sintra. And again, we took the bus down. I knew this whole time that we were in Portugal, I really wanted to have some Portuguese tapas. So we found a Portuguese tapas place in Old Town Sintra called Tascantiga. And I absolutely loved it. It was delicious. We had some shrimp, some beef cheek, chorizo, potato wedges, octopus, and a few other things. So this was a really nice casual lunch that we had, and I really did enjoy it. And you really get the nice ambiance being in the Old Town too, in these classic European Portuguese style buildings and cities. It's just really special in here.
And we've mentioned in our Lisbon and Madeira episodes how hilly Portugal is, and we would say the same for Sintra as well. We did walk uphill from the bus stop to get up here, but we were seated outside on the deck. It was a beautiful day and the food was great, so we do recommend going to lunch here. One thing that was also on my list was to try a travesseiro, which is an almond puff pastry. So we did go ahead and pick up two. We had found one in a shop and we tried it just because we came across it and we didn't know if we'd come across it again. And then we found it again at the place that's like super popular for it. But ironically, we liked the first one. We tried more.
Yeah, and the travesseiros are almost like the pastel de natas that are really popular in Lisbon. Here in Sintra, these are their popular sweet treat. So you do have to give it a try.
What I bought? A new Blink Mini 2K Plus smart security camera. What I got? 2K clarity sharp enough to see every detail of home when I'm away. Plus audio like I'm in the room, not with my bestie traveling to another city. Plus easy plug-in setup to install faster than skipping through podcast ads. But you'd never skip ads, right? Plus, I got all of this for just $49.99. Blink Mini 2K Plus. Mini camera, max performance. Shop now at amazon.com/blink.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Our last stop of the day was the National Palace of Sintra. So from the historic center of Sintra, we were just able to walk here. It is only about a 5-minute walk away. And to get there, we were just winding down through the cobblestone streets of old Sintra. And then we crossed the street and here it was. This was our last stop of the day, like I said, and it's in the heart of Sintra's Old Town.
Yeah, and so the National Palace of Sintra has a blend, again, of medieval, Gothic, Manuelian architectural styles. So it's easily recognized by its iconic twin conical chimneys that you will actually see. And it was once a royal palace residence,
just like Pena was.
You'll go through on your own pace, and I felt like this wasn't as crowded, of course, as Pena Palace. And you're going to see these very beautiful, elaborately decorated rooms, stunning tile work, chandeliers, and a rich collection of historical artifacts.
And just to give you a little bit of Portuguese history without going too much into it, the Revolution of 1910 brought an abrupt end, realistically, to the time of the Palace of Sintra and even the monarchy of Portugal. And so after it was abandoned in 1910, very soon after, in the early 1900s, it did start finally actually becoming a palace that was open to the public for tours to see as a museum. So it's carrying on to this day that way.
What's really unique about the National Palace of Sintra is the palace was shaped by different styles influenced by the different artistical trends in each period, because practically every single king and queen of Portugal spent some time in residence here. So you can actually see areas that they added on later that weren't part of the original and see how the architectural styles and design styles changed over time.
I like that. It's like each individual king and queen put their own personal style on it and added something. So it's really cool. But within these walls, I would say that the outside of this palace doesn't look like anything special, especially when you're comparing it to Pena Palace. But ironically, I felt like the inside of this palace was a lot better than the inside of Pena Palace. So you get that little bit of contrast too.
I just want to note that you can take pictures of the outside of the palace, but no pictures are allowed inside this palace.
But all in all, I would say that we had a really great time in Sintra. Like Brittany mentioned and described it earlier, it really is like stepping into a fairy tale because you have these lush, beautiful green hillsides, these beautiful castles, and so many of them. I mean, we only just talked about 3 here, but there are so many more. So you could spend a lot of time, and it's within a close concentration of one another. So I thought that was actually pretty unique because I've never really experienced anything like that, seen so many castles and palaces in close proximity.
Yeah, if we had an extra day or the next time we're in Portugal, I would love to come back and explore some of the other sites like the Montserrat Palace or the Quinta de Regularia, and also the chalet and gardens of the Countess Edla.
And that was our time in Sintra before heading back to Lisbon and finishing off our trip there. And I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to Just the Tip.
Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on all the socials at Travel Squad Podcast.
And have fun traveling this weekend.
Bye, Squaddies.
Bye.